А оце зараз луте, це звідки приблизно?
Та прямо там, вони ховаються там в этих, за будівлею атомних станцій. Ми не маємо права туди стріляти.
Ті речі, які мені віддали, я не змогла з ними нічого зробити, тому що вони були просто всі вижені током. Діти поруч зі мною сиділи і плакали.
Europe's largest nuclear facility is completely and chaotically mined.
Everything is managed by Rosatom.
Українці, доброго дня. У місті Енергодар, це найбільше місто з найбільшою атомною електростанцією Європи. Зараз під'їхали російські військові.
The Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Station is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. Its 6,000 megawatt output is roughly comparable to the total nuclear generating capacity of countries like Slovakia or Hungary.
There was a small battle and our soldiers suffered losses, as did the enemy. But when they started firing at the buildings, both the station management and the battalion had no choice but to raise the white flag. Because when shells are flying into the nuclear station, it's too serious.
According to all international conventions, the Geneva Conventions, and the norms of international humanitarian law, it is prohibited to conduct military operations near nuclear facilities and to use them for military purposes. Accidents at such facilities lead to large-scale consequences, not only at the national level, but also globally. That is precisely why.
Звідки б'ють з різних точок, з Водяного, з Кам'янки, Дніпровської.
Це все навколо Енергодара.
This is completely unprecedented. For the first time in the world, a military seizure has taken place.
Як вони били з танків по тій станції, вони казали, нічого їй не буде, але ж я розуміла, що ви коїте.
Given that nothing critical, nothing truly critical, happened at the Zaporizhzhia plant, I assume that there were representatives of Rosatom among the Russian military who said what actions could be taken and what actions could not.
Главное богатство – люди. Люди, которые имеют смелость мечтать, люди, которые имеют мужество добиваться реализации своей мечты. Это вы.
Nuclear power plant employees are trained to operate under the principle that the reactor cannot be left unattended. No matter what happens, the reactor must be operated and controlled. Therefore, there was no doubt that the employees had to go to the reactor, control it, prevent accidents, and so on.
І в холі, і в кабінетах були дирки від снарядів танкових. Деякі приміщення зовсім були в аварійному стані. На комп'ютерах, на самих моніторах було видно сліди від пуль. І саме що страшніше, що ти коли підходив до КПП, то на криші, на адмінбудівлі були снайпери, стояли. І під прицілами снайперів стояли в черзі, і нам треба було йти на роботу.
Anyone could see that this was a planned operation, because it's not so easy to capture this place. However, after a certain period of time, the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant, it stopped performing its primary function. That is, producing energy, and it became a military base where you could find armored vehicles, heavy machinery, artillery, and multiple rocket launch systems, all mixed up together.
Уже сколько прошло, да, танки прошли, а сейчас идут вот это машины, военная техника. Боже, сколько их, капец.
If, within the first hour, the head of Rosatom called the station director and said, "Welcome home," then it's clear that this was entirely expected. They did it. Literally, the next day, a whole bunch of specialists showed up to supervise the work of our specialists and so on. Keep in mind the management team.
Before the occupation, the general population of Energodar was around 50,000 people. Now it's 5 times less. We achieved to classify 226 cases of Energodar citizens and ZNPP workers who were illegally detention. At least 78 of those, they were workers of ZNPP. And at least 13 persons, we know that they still in Russian captivity or even already been sentenced.
Служим Отечеству, служим народу. Казаки города Энергодара совместно с органами правопорядка несут патрульную службу на улицах родного города.
It was done quietly. It wasn't like they gathered everyone together and put them at gunpoint. Instead, they selected loyal personnel from the management team and told them to work with the staff to get them to sign contracts. When they received a sharp refusal, these people somehow disappeared. Just as the FSB had worked with them at the station, they took them away to the basements.
Коли я почула в коридорі там страшне, що творилося, я підбігла до Галацька, я побачила, що хлопці, я вернулась до чоловіка, кажу, прийшли, мабуть, за тобою. Вони перевернули дом, були певні запитання, чоловіка зв'язали, били, в мене мати не витримала, вибігла і каже, будь ласка, не робіть цього в домі, діти.
Бля, пиздят его. Сука. Или пиздят. Бля, что делает? Он его нахуй убивает.
Почала телефонувати безпосередньому керівникові. Олексія, Льошу забрали. Ти поняла, хто? 3 в масках. В час дня о 13 годині з робочого місця Льошу забрали ФСБшника.
Потім вони попросили мені принести йому нову одежу, зібрати. Я зібрала ті речі, які мені віддали. Ви знаєте, я їх так і залишила вдома. Я не змогла з ними нічого зробити, тому що вони були просто всі вижені током, всі залиті кров'ю. Я просто сиділа, я не їла, не пила, мені жити не хотілося. Діти поруч зі мною сиділи і плакали. І я розуміла, що він там пережив найстрашніше, що могло пережити. Кожна людина, кожен українець, який несе в собі ім'я українця.
The whole infrastructure of violence was built around Energodar. 7 sites of illegal detention. Different type of tortures were made, both psychological, physical, and also terrible detention conditions, which often had consequences for health of those people.
У нього виразка шлунку, і тому вже його так виснажили, що в нього пішла кровотеча і відходила мокрота кров'ю. А вони, орки, подумали, що він туберкульозний. І його розділи і вкинули яму голу взимку.
Among physical, we documented beatings with various objects, bats, weapon handles, torture with electric shocks, which was one of the most common, then shots with traumatic weapons, and strangulation. Some of documented materials which we have even showed that to some Ukrainian citizens there was the forced raping of another detention women who were there.
Є дівчата, які працювали в медзакладах нашого міста, і там, де привозили хлопців полуживих, і вони казали, так, там даємо пару часів, щоб ви його трошки оклимали, бо ми ще не все випитали в нього. А дівчата приходять додому, всі тремтять і кажуть, ми не знаємо, що з ними робити. Тому що ми розуміємо, що якщо ми зараз трошки йому поможемо, вони все одно його доб'ють. Але взяти, вколоть, забрати в нього життя, не маємо такого права.
So nowadays, what we can see in Energodar, people who are staying there, they are mostly workers of ZNPP and their families. Because for them to escape from Energodar, it's extremely difficult, almost impossible nowadays. It was based on Rosatom interests.
In other words, facing a severe shortage of people who understood the technical process, they found people who could either be persuaded or agree on their own to come work for them and become collaborators. That's why this whole story was invented. But identifying and selecting these people is not just a matter of some HR person sitting down, not knowing at all what kind of person they're dealing with, what their qualifications are, what their competencies are. Only someone who understands this person's role in the station's management structure, their tasks, their functions, what they can do, what they should do, and how necessary they are for the organization of the technical process could do this. Who can do this? Some army major or sergeant? Well, probably not. Again, it was a Rosatom specialist who deeply understands the specifics, who is himself a specialist in this field, who understands this person's place. That is why these people, the key people who remained there, were the ones mainly subjected to torture. Many of the key people left, but those who remained were indispensable, so they were forced. You can put pressure on a person. You can put pressure on his family. You can do a lot by force.
We've been quite surprised, to be honest, that how deeply and widely Rosatom integrated in life of occupied Energodar. Both city mayors of Energodar, Maxim Pukhov, who is the current one, and Eduard Sinovos, they didn't have any relation to the city or to the region at all. Both of them, they built all their career in Rosatom. They started to work as operators once when they were young, then they got better positions, and then they got official positions in so-called Atomgrads. Atomgrad is this special word which comes from Soviet times for these small cities which are satellites to huge nuclear power plants. And Energodar was built as this kind of city which is a satellite of ZNPP, basically.
In the Soviet Union, the Ministry of Energy was responsible for the construction and operation of nuclear power plants. It is clear that the State Security Committee had very powerful support in all structures. From that time on, positions appeared in all departments and structures of the Ministry of Atomic Energy and Industry, so-called existing reserve officers, as they were known. These are people who were essentially employees of the Committee for State Security of Russia, or as it's now called, the FSB. If you look at the management of Rosatom and the structures under Rosatom, the entire system and structure are built exactly like this. Rosatom overseas, which deals with sales abroad, is everywhere. There are practically no technical specialists there. Legal education. You understand what kind of lawyers they are.
So basically, Energodar is one of occupied cities, Ukrainian occupied cities, which were occupied by Russia. But at the same time, it's a city which is occupied and administrated fully by Russian governmental corporation. Maybe it's even the only city in the world nowadays who is occupied and administrated by corporation.
It is the size of Enerhodar. The territory of the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant is huge. And these are closed structures, large hangars where equipment can safely be brought in and stored. One can only imagine what types of weapons there are and how many. In general, storing something that could accidentally explode near a nuclear facility is prohibited. As we know, the safety and handling of explosives in Russia is not at the highest level, and their factories often exploded, not only from our drones.
The destruction of even one reactor, let alone 6 reactors, plus 6 spent nuclear fuel storage facilities, each posing enormous danger on their own, would constitute a global catastrophe with far-reaching cross-border consequences. Ukraine would not be the only country affected. And this risk exists not only in calm weather conditions. Windy conditions are equally possible. Climatic factors critically influence the extent and direction of transboundary radioactive contamination.
Of all the places there, ZNPP seems to be the most suitable place to house an entire school of pilots. It has a suitable infrastructure to host everyone who needs to be involved, like instructors and students. All of them need to be kept safe. And ZNPP is the first place that comes to mind where they can be accommodated. I think Russians use this logic. You can feel it compared to other areas where beginners train. You can hear it in the sound of the FPV as it is controlled, and you can see it visually. But the main thing is the sound, and where you are in cover, you hear 1 or 2 FPVs coming at you to attack.
Для нашей страны абсолютным приоритетом является обеспечение ядерной безопасности и физической защиты ядерных объектов и установок.
So we can definitely see that nuclear safety is not only first priority on ZNPP, and then unfortunately in the context where it's driven by corporation who is performance in military and political mission, it cannot go in another way. That there is a fundamental principle contradiction between military missions and nuclear safety.
Rosatom just continues the malicious policies of Russia at nuclear facilities. Chernobyl nuclear power station and Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station are clear examples. And if the story of Chernobyl can be qualified as resolved, then ZNPP remains a big, painful problem. And it's very strange that in the 4th year of war, Rosatom still faces no sanctions. It works and aids the army of the occupier, managing and handling its work there. And all that is going on in there, I'm sure, is happening with the permission of Rosatom, because it's them, that same company, that's moderating all processes there. Therefore, in pilots of Sudny Den, the pilots of Rubicon are there, most likely, not even with the tacit consent of Rosatom, but with its written consent.
Now we can say that there is some kind of city prison for, especially for those who are working on ZNPP, because of their technical knowledge. And it's kind of paradox, their technical knowledge and how valuable they are, it's cut off for them the way how they can escape from occupied city.
Мы отвергаем так называемый технологический колониализм. То есть не ставим наших партнеров в зависимость от российских технических решений.
Do you understand how this scheme works? How do they operate abroad? Why are they currently carrying out construction in 7 countries? They enter a country and provide a technical loan for an amount of approximately, each individual block is valued at $5 billion, from $5 to $6 billion. 2 blocks, $12 billion. 4 blocks, $24 billion. It's rough, simple arithmetics. They take this money and give loans to these countries so that they buy into this story and become politically, technically, economically, and financially dependent on the country providing the funds. They simply buy them. This is a political act, not a technical one, pure politics. The organization everyone does business with, which in practice includes terrorists, involves people who take part in torture and coercion. For them, influence is more important than economic gain. And if this is the case, then this task is not being carried out by Rosatom, but through Rosatom. It is being implemented by the federal government, Putin and the Kremlin, because for them, the task is not the economy, but influence, political and economic influence in certain countries and regions. It's the same everywhere. Bangladesh, Egypt, the same pattern everywhere.
FPV drones often fly in Marhanets, looking for targets to hit. Perhaps they're looking for military targets, military vehicles, or people in uniform. But if there are none, they attack whatever they think is worth hitting. These can be buses or trucks, and they target them.
Зранку, о 8:10 ранку, був такий обстріл прицільний. 11 снарядів випустили по вулиці. Сусідка наша загинула. З приходу снаряда вийшла на вулицю подивитися, як у неї вікна вилетіли. І тут третій приход, і осколками прямо під хатою і вбило.
Це все прилітає. Ось ж бачиш, зриви в каміння, в это. Церква побита в этих решетах. Ну, самое главное, что казацкая церковь побита вся в решетах. Около 20 этих самых пробоин. Заходю, думаю, ну, ни одну ікону не розбили, ні одну, це саме, я їх цілував, що спасибо вам. Це рідна земля того самого Сірка, атамана. Я це стріляю там, вже в хаті побили кришу. А сюди, дай Бог, не йди сюди, по-божому. Хай буде правда, хай буде.